Hello everybody, this is Robert with Deep Thought Cycle Blog, and I'm getting ready to head home on my daily commute home. One of my favorite journeys, one of my favorite routes. And this route I'm specifically going to talk about, well, after I talk about this, I'll talk about other things, deep things. But I'm going to specifically talk about all the parts on this bike. And over the next weeks, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna try to find some Chinese looking places for you, and I'll review every individual component, okay? So let's go on a nice 31-kilometer ride. You know, I have my camera tilted up, so I have to hope that you're not seeing the sky, because when I ride, I tend to look at the road, so I have to, if I don't tilt the camera up, you guys will just be looking at the road. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my Bluetooth speaker. While I will be talking, I do like to turn on the music sometimes in the background. Now, I think I've talked about, I know I've done some reviews before of the bike and its components, but I think I misplaced the videos or something. So because we have a new playlist that's just about components and reviews and stuff, and that's going to be the main focus of this, is the entire bike review. I'm going to do it again, and I don't mind talking about bikes. So we have some new subscribers. Welcome everybody. It's been real busy the last 2 weeks, but I'll try to get some more videos up. Okay, so here we are out in front of one of the places where I teach at. And this is a Schwalbe Ogre, small frame. And I'm not only going to talk about components on this review, I'm going to talk about buying those components from China. And if you live in another country or you plan on going on touring, it might factor into, you know, what you have is not only about about the monetary cost, but the availability and the challenges in getting it into your location. Let me get my music set up here using VLC player and freeform music downloaded from WFMU's freeform site. As mentioned before, I'm going to go ahead and start my Garmin Fenix 3 bike computer. All my sensors are connected. I'm going to go here. No. Thanks. All right, thanks. Somebody asked me if I'm lost. My heart rate monitor battery is low. I knew I had some problems with the heart rate monitor. Okay, so beautiful day. Last day of the month. Before I do this review, I'd like to mention this month we've gone about 1,800 kilometers this month. A couple long days in this month. I did miss about a 100-kilometer ride on a Sunday, and maybe a 20 or 30-kilometer ride because the class was canceled. So I would have gone closer to 2,000. And the monthly challenge, I'm happy to admit, probably number 9 in China on Strava in the monthly challenge. For the age group 35 to 44 or something, I'm like number 400 and something. Oh, look at these dogs pissing on the car. That's lovely. Lovely dogs. All right. So, you don't see dogs pissing on bikes. And you don't see bikes killing dogs. So, we're going to talk about those bike components and bike. Now, I should talk about my previous bike that I had, that I've ridden like about 25,000 kilometers. Oh, look there, we have 4 Lamborghinis, a black Tesla Model S, and our local repair shop. There it is. All right, here comes the Tesla. And speaking of Teslas, tomorrow it's going to be the Tesla release date for releasing information about the new Model 3. I like driving my bike, but if I had a car, I sure would like it to be a Tesla. There you go, there's a black Tesla P85D in China. See 2 or 3 a day. Okay, so my last bike that I had more than 20,000 kilometers on, it was a Gary Fisher 29-inch frame and cobia, and it's stock shocks, and I upgraded the driveline and the components and everything like that. It had some nice TK 540 Dtswiss rims. There were 36 holes, and it was an aluminum frame versus this steel frame, and it felt like the rear was a little bit more stiff and rigid than this Shirley that I'm on, but that may be due to my rim or due to my tire. I'm not sure. We're going to talk about that. So, why did I choose the Shirley Ogre to be my commuter? And for me, when I say commuter, I mean I really look to buy a single bike that I would ride the rest of my life, foreseeable life. Now, if I was overabundantly rich, I would have a titanium frame, perhaps a titanium Jones bike, but I really don't like to want, and I don't like to buy something that I feel like I got the wrong deal. So I'm happy with this frame. I ended up choosing a Shirley Ogre. And why did I choose a Shirley Ogre? Well, Gary Fisher sold out to Trek, and I have rode Gary Fisher bikes since 1992 or 1991. Long time. My very first mountain bike was a Bridgestone MB, I think it was MB3, I can't remember. And I remember having some time, my first clipless pedals on that bike. And then I upgraded Gary Fisher for many, many years. Always had the steel Gary Fishers, except for one aluminum. which I had in China. And I like the Gary Fishers because the top tube was long and it gave you a stretched out cockpit. And I really like that. And Trek buying Gary Fisher, you know, I'm not all about the multinational corporations that much. And the standard Trek frames seem to have a shorter top tube, which I did not like. I like the longer top tube to lay out more, which the Shirley does have. And I know that, you know, Salsa looks like they make some nice frames. Jones looks some nice frames I like. I don't like a tube that's so high and straight, like a road bike frame. You know, just picking my leg up over it. I much prefer the mountain bike style frame, which is what the Shirley Ogre is. Sure, I mean, if I mean, titanium you don't really need when you're always loaded up anyways. But, of course, if money was no option, a titanium Salsa frame or Jones frame, that'd be cool. But, another bad thing about the Gary Jones bike is, I'm sorry, about the Gary Fisher bike, is I wasn't happy that I couldn't replace the forks very easily. And I didn't really need the suspension forks. They're on my bike. And with the G2 suspension or G2 geometry, I just found it impossible to find a replacement. So enter in the Shirley Ogre. Now, Shirley makes some different frames. They have a lot of fat bikes that are starting to become very popular. I don't want to be crucified, but I think the fat bike thing seems kind of like a trend. I mean, I have a problem that my Commute is slower right now, I think due to my tires. I couldn't imagine commuting 450 kilometers a week on a fat bike. I'm sure your average speed would only be around 20 kilometers an hour or something. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I mean, the utility and the strength of a fat bike looks appealing, but at the same time, the maneuverability and the weight does not seem like something that I enjoy that much. So while Shirley is becoming more popular for their fat bikes, I was drawn to Shirley, believe it or not. It had nothing to do with the marketing going on of the guy, of the bearded mechanic, whatever. I always knew about Shirley from their long haul truckers and the people that used their frames for touring. And that was what was appealing to me, was that so many people chose Shirley as a touring bike, and I wanted a bike that doesn't have any problems. So I was looking at that. Now, when you talk about the touring bike models, most popular with Shirley is the long haul trucker, And then it goes, you have the karate monkey and the straggler. The long road trucker is, what turned me off to that was 26-inch wheels, and I really like the 29-inch wheels. I personally can't imagine going to 26-inch wheels again in my life. I know the argument, and I know from experience that around here you're not going to find a lot of support for 29-inch rims. But I've never broken my rims. I've broken spokes before, but not on good wheel builds. So I know that the arguments between 29 and 26. So that's why I didn't go with the Shirley Troll. I'm sorry, yeah. They have a nice world troller. Comes in sections. I didn't get that. Went with the Ogre. Now, to find the frame in China is impossible. The complete bike even more so. And I wanted to custom build my frame a little bit nicer than what comes stock. I would suggest to anybody, you know, build your own bike completely from scratch if you could afford it. In the long run, you'll save money and you'll get more of a customized bike. So I went ahead and I chose the Shirley Ogre. Now this was a difficult choice because I've honestly never seen one before, and I was nervous to buy a bike that I've never sat on or seen or got to ride on. That's just not an option when you live in different countries around the world. In fact, I mean, I had to search long and wide just to get the frame because Shirley has a policy of not mail ordering and selling local, which makes things difficult to do. So I had to search high and low, and I only found one frame, only one, in Hong Kong at Flying Ball Cycles, and it was a small frame. Now I'm 5'6" tall, which I forget how many meters that is, centimeters, whatever. And I was hoping, I did a lot of reading, that this small frame would fit me. And I you know, just for me to go to Hong Kong was very difficult. I found out there's only one frame. I had to have a friend of a friend, a student's parents that went to school with somebody in Hong Kong, went to the shop and bought the frame for me because, you know, I couldn't get to the shop before they closed, so they picked it up for me. The frame and the forks. And then I went down with my 4 kids through border inspection into Hong Kong. My kid's only second time ever leaving China to go pick up the frame and bring it back through the border in the back of our old child's trailer. Now, luckily I didn't have to pay customs on it, and when we were bringing it back here, and the first thing that I noticed when I got that frame was, well, number one, I was so anxious. I wish I had all the other parts. And number two, it seems so small. I was so worried that when I put it together, it was gonna be too small for me. Now my last scary fish was like a 19 or something. It was actually a little bit too big for me, but for a commuter, a big frame, you could stretch out. You're not doing downhill stuff and mountain stuff. So it's okay to be a little bit big, but I thought it was gonna be like way too small. So I went ahead and I got the small, and I ordered the parts from a lot of stuff from CRC. And by the time I got it put together, it was just right. It fits me awesome. So, and I really like it. I really like the fit. I'm so happy I didn't get a bigger size. And this is great for me. Now, speaking of the Shirley Ogre frame itself, the mounts on it are great. Let's talk about all the mounts and the options on the frame. The front fork holds up into a 203mm front rotor, and it's got lots of eyelets, so it makes mounting water bottle cages really easy, and mounting the front frame rack really easy. Shirley sells a hell of a tank looking front rack. Personally, I've never used a front rack before. And honestly, I never had water cages on my front fork before. And right now I run two on the front, and it sure is convenient to be able to reach down and grab them from the front and free up the down tube and stuff. It's very convenient, and I was able to mount the fenders. Planet Cascadia, well, Planet Cascadia was the only fenders that I could get to work on here. I'll talk about those fenders in a little bit, but they mount quite well on here with the use of what's called a fender flute. I'll talk about that too in a little bit. Now, if I was going to get a different fork, I would like to have the Jones Truss forks. Jones Truss has a steel and a titanium one. Of course, the titanium one would be awesome. It may be a future upgrade, but I don't know if that has mounts for water bottles or not on the front. It's not a necessity. These forks are awesome, but those truss forks are kind of cool. Just something to lust over, maybe. Hoarding, addiction, I don't know. But it's great. They're awesome now, and they accept fat tires. I don't run that fat tires myself, but if you're looking for running real fat tires, you know, Shirley says fatties fit fine, and they're all about the fat tire scene. So I want to worry about running any fat tires. So their compatibility is real good. Versus the rear disc rotor, it's not 200 size. You know, and I'm sorry, I'm not gonna be able to tell you that. What is it back? I forget, like a 160 or something for the rear disc. I didn't know that. I bought like two 200 Avid rotors for BB7, and I had to get a different rotor for the back. Not a big deal. There's mounts on the fork for V-brakes or disc brakes. I'm running BB7s. talk about that in a little bit. The cable routing and stuff is great on this bike. Powder coated frame, black, and there's an adapter that they gave me to run direct mount. I'm sorry I don't have the bottom bracket size on me because I'm on my bike right now. But I'm running a 175, like a Deore 48.2 trekking front crankset in it, with the Shimano mountain bike mountain version of their BB. Sure, the what is it, the Chris King would have a nice bottom bracket, or, but anyways, frame is great, no complaints, I love it. Nice sturdy still. And commuting, you know, this is a smooth street I'm on right now. Some of the streets get pretty rugged. I don't have a lot of off-road experience on this bike, but I would have no problem taking this bike around the world. At the time of this review, I've done about 6,500 or so kilometers on this bike. You can check on Strava, and it sure is nice. Now, first thing I should talk about is the handlebars. Buying this as a frame only, of course, I know that Shirley offered the Jones loop bar with their complete bike build, and I didn't, you know, I didn't really know about the Jones loop bar, and I just got a real cheap straight bar from Chain Reaction Cycles, and with a little bit, and let me tell you something. I read a lot about the Jones loop bar, and I'm riding it right now. I don't know, you can see my hand position. There's different positions. You can put your hands right here, or put your hands back. I'm gonna have an independent review of the loop bar, as I will with all the components. This is a long general review, detailed review. But my wife says it's like an ox. I guess it is like an ox. You know, the bar is awesome. You could, when you put your hands at the end, it puts you in the upright position. When it gets some speed, you can put them directly on the very front and get down in a more laid down position, or you can even put your hands in the back and sit upright a little bit more. I cannot stress how much these handlebars make the bike a million times better. The way they sweep back, and I'm using some Ergon grips with bar ends on them, and running Ergon grips with bar ends, you know, when you're in heavy traffic, these bar ends, not only do you get a place to put your hands a little bit, but these bar ends right here, they actually protect your hand from smashing into car windows, car mirrors. They're great for heavy traffic commuting. A little bit dangerous. You don't want to get them caught on something, but I like them a lot. They're so awesome. They're so comfortable. It changes everything about the bike. I will never run the different handlebars again than these loop bars, and they're very convenient too, because I can put my speaker and my Bluetooth with the bungee cord between them. I have lots of mounting options for my cycle computer, my watch, my light, my bell. A lot of people mount bags. It's an awesomely utilized, useful, ergonomic component second to none. They have a titanium and a chrome version, or steel version. I got our aluminum version, whatever. I got the non-titanium version, but you got titanium if you want to get that kind of stuff, if you're rich. The price is pretty good, a little bit expensive. I think I paid 600 RMB, I can't remember, 800 RMB, I can't remember the exact cost. Ordering them from the US, you know, Jones is a small company. Jones' wife, Mrs. Jones, actually communicated with me directly in email, and she was real nice, and she sent me the bars directly to China. I got them fast and easy, and boy, what a treat they are. Awesome. And so those are the Jones loop bars that I put on here. And now we should probably go with our drivetrain, our wheels. I'm running right now, I'm running 700 by 38C Schwalbe Marathon Plus tires. Now, I don't have a lot of time, and Schwalbe's been a great, the Marathon Plus series is one of the most puncture resistant tires you could buy, bar none. Now back in 2013 or something, 2012, I had my first pair of Marathon Pluses, and that was after trying Bontrager hard case and different Bontrager tires, and they were so slow with very bad rolling resistance and lots of flats. Terrible experience with Bontragers. When I got my first set of Marathon Pluses here in China, I think there were 700 by 38s too, and I can't remember, to tell you the truth, it was a long time ago. But I did, like in the first couple thousand kilometers, I was actually disappointed. I did get a couple flats, not that many, but I'd say in the first 4,000 kilometers, I got about 4 or 5 flats. Maybe that's just bad luck. They were puncture flats. Now, one of the flats, twice the flats, I remember getting 2 flats when I was out working in a place called Dongguan, which is about 60 kilometers from here. When I was riding in this remote nowhere land in the countryside of Dongguan, teaching a summer camp, and I got this flat. One of the flats I got was like at 2 in the morning or 12 in the morning in the middle of nowhere, and I didn't have the stuff to fix it. I can't remember, I think I used my last tube or something. It was a big pain in the ass. And you know, all the flats are pain in the asses, to tell you the truth. But they're pretty good. I didn't get that many flats, but more than I thought. And about 8,000 kilometers or 9,000 kilometers, they had tons of thread left on them, but I was just getting more flats, so I decided to change them out. Maybe it was 10,000 kilometers. I changed them out to some Marathon Touring Plus. And the Marathon Touring Plus, they were a little bit heavier. Marathon Plus Touring, their tread was thicker, and I received no flats in a good 6,000 kilometers at least. They're awesome tires. They're heavier and slower a little bit. More tread. Good if you're going on like strange countries and you got a little bit off-road, maybe gravel and stuff and dirt, and maybe really seriously fucked up roads. I'd probably go with the Marathon Pluses. I'm sorry, the Marathon Plus Touring. if speed is the ultimate speed is not your issue. Well, here in 2016, or 2015, when I built this bike I'm riding, I decided to go with the Marathon Pluses again, and got these from CRC, the newest model, and here I am on 6,400 kilometers or whatever, and I haven't had one flat. And nasty streets, not very good places to ride, and not even one flat. I've had like 2 flats due to stem problems, valve stems, running Schwalbe tubes, but never a puncture flat or a pinch flat. I run these tires at 6 bar, loaded rear panniers. Often, I wouldn't even think about running these at a lower pressure because, well, let me be honest with you, these are much slower and much heavier than my old versions were. And they're so much better than the first version. I even wonder if maybe the first version I bought was a fake one, or maybe just Marathon Pluses improved in quality over the last years. But these are noticeably slower. Maybe I'm older, maybe I'm out of shape and fatter, but my average speed used to be easily 28 kilometers an hour, and now I struggle to hit 25 kilometers an hour for average speeds during my commutes, average 30 kilometer commute. So they're just really mushy feeling, really heavy feeling. Now, if you're not in a super big hurry commuting, they're great tires. I think that the weight and durability, you know, it gives you a better workout. You could be thankful for that. Now, if you're looking for speed and you're running late all the time, like I tend to be, it might get a little bit annoying. Now, I wonder how much of this is due to the fact that I'm running 32 spoke Mavic rims, which are a little bit wider and definitely not so sturdy is the Dtswiss TK540s 36 spoke. Those rims were so noticeably stiff. They were super awesome. I wonder if this sluggish feeling that I get from these tires is somewhat due to the spoke count being lower and maybe rim foot, I'm not sure. And I know that and you know, it's a little bit bouncing the rear, even though I got the pressure up to 6 bar. And I'm not sure if the rear triangle on this Shirley Ogre is a little bit more flexed than the thicker barred aluminum Gary Fisher I rode for a while, or maybe the flex is coming from the rims, or even perhaps the compound itself and the anti-flat protection is perhaps a little bit softer on this one. Now, I'm not trying to sound negative about these tires. I mean, they, after 6,000 kilometers, they look like they're brand new. I'm sure they could easily go another 6,000 to 7,000 kilometers easy. If you're looking for durability and to save money, Marathon Pluses are great. If you're looking for a little bit speed, now when I go loaded and on the train I go, you could expect an average 25, you know, maybe 25 kilometer to 26 kilometer average speed loaded. That's what I get, about 23 to 26. if you're looking for a faster average, you might want to look elsewhere. And as a matter of fact, I'm just purchased the Marathon Supremes, which are lighter. You know, these tires are come in about 1 kilogram each. It's 700 by 38. And then the tubes, you know, I'm not sure how many grams they weigh, what? At least like 250 or so, I don't know. Heavy tubes, heavy tires. When we talk about rotational, like unsprung weight and stuff like that or whatever, it's a lot. It's good. It'll give you a good workout. And it does have a dead feeling. I switched. I'm going to change these to the Marathon Supremes, just because I think I could maybe get back up to 28 to 30 kilometer average speeds and save hours per month on my commute, which I could give more time to my kids. That's the only reason I'm changing, because my schedule's so demanding. If not, I would be completely happy with these. A negative thing I have that I want to say is, I've noticed that in rain and cold weather, but especially any kind of wet road, it seems that the rolling resistance increases on these tires. They seem so much slower in the cold weather or rain. I don't know why. I don't think it's in my head, but I'm talking about like a 3 to 4 kilometer an hour slow down. I mean, it's just really noticeable whenever the weather's cool. Hot weather, they're much faster. I don't think it's about pressure. I think it's about something in the compound itself. So that's something you might want to keep in mind. But you know, I wouldn't go anything, if you're commuting like in China, you know, this is a nice road here, but not every road's nice like this. I wouldn't get anything smaller than a 35, 700 by 35, personally. Just because sometimes, and especially when it's raining, you can't see the potholes very good. Sometimes you smash holes. I smash holes real hard, and so yeah, I'd say you want to aim for like a 35 to 40. I even think I had a 42, 700 by 42 on my other one with the touring tire. I can't remember what my old marathon touring wheel size was. But the Marathon Supremes I'm replacing these with, I'm going to 735 from these 738s in hopes to get a little bit more speed. And going up hills, even like this, if you're a high cadence pedaler, which I'm not, I don't know how you could have a real high cadence on these heavy tires with loaded bags in the back, and more than a kilo just for the tire and tube. It will be really interesting to report on the difference in switching to the Supremes. But if you're going around the world or any kind of touring that you don't want to worry about flats, these are awesome. I'm actually going to switch to tubeless for the Supremes. We'll see how that goes. I'll give you an update on that. The rims that I'm using are Mavic EN821, supposedly downhill rims. They're marketed as being wider. Honestly, they're not my first choice. I wanted to get the Dtswiss TK 540s, but I ordered from Chain Reaction Cycles because it is hard to find rims and stuff here in China, and I don't know anybody who could build my wheel set, and I don't know how to build it myself. And CRC built such a great wheel set for me before. I mean, right now, my old mechanic's gone. I don't even know where to get my wheels trued. And I haven't trued them in 6,000 kilometers. And they seem to be pretty straight still. I like to put them on the stand and check them out. I really would. But my old tires were awesome. I used the old tires, the TK 540s with Pro Lock nipples, brass nipples, and Dtswiss comp spokes, and they're both bulletproof. But these ones are the Mavic EN821s. I can't give you the weight on them, but they are much lighter than my old TK 540s first, which is good. I mean, they're light, but combined with this heavy tire, it's really hard to say. And I know I'm out of shape compared to years ago, still. But I guess a bonus of these is their lighter rim, I guess. As far as being wider, I don't know if being wider has to do with these being slower. I don't know if it's a placebo, but I often question myself, is my commute time slower because the width of these 821s? I don't know. A lot will be told when I switch to these Marathon Supremes coming up here. But I'm using the Pro Lock spokes, and I've got these built with the Dtswiss spokes. You know, CRC doesn't build Dtswiss rims anymore. They'll sell you the components, but they won't do the build for you. So that's what kind of gave me no choice but to try these out. Hindsight, I would have gone with the TK 540s 36 or 30, and took them to Hong Kong to a builder that I just found at the Flying Ball Cycle, I guess. But these are UST rims, so that means there's no nipples that go through the rim. It's like flat and even. You don't need rim tape or anything. Even though CRC still wants to try to sell you rim tape, I really don't understand that on a UST rim, which means they're tubeless rims, right? Even though I'm running the tube with these, I'm using I'm using a Hope Evo 2 hubs. In the past, I've used XT hubs, and my old XT hubs, after like 5,000 kilometers, I had problems with bearings. These Hopes, a little bit louder, but I haven't serviced them once. I haven't had time, I don't have the tools to do it myself, and I don't know any mechanics that are capable anywhere near me right now. So coming up on 6,500 kilometers or so, I got a little bit worried, and I looked up yesterday, you know, what is a service recommendation for Hope 2 Evo hubs. I got the gunmetal color ones. But a lot of comments I read is you could go 20,000 miles and not need to service them at all. A lot of people say the bearings will outlast the hub body. That's reassuring to me, because I am in no position to find service on these. So if you're in an area like me and actually getting a local mechanic to service them or repack them, might do more harm than good. You want to find some that are self-contained and sealed that will last. So far, I'd recommend these Hopes, but like I said, I haven't even had a real professional mechanic check out the current status of them, but they sound like they're right. They don't have any play. There seems to be little resistance, so it looks cool to me. I'd recommend these, or just based on reputation, I don't know if there's a Phil Wood or whatever, a really nice, you know, make sure you go with the nice quality hub that will last you forever. So far these Hopes are doing pretty good for me, but I'm happy that I bought these outside of China. They do have them inside of China, but it is really hard to buy things that are not fake, and they have these in such large quality inside of China. I'm guessing a lot of them are fake, and if you're looking for quality, you want to stay away from the fake stuff. So buying from CRC in the UK really helped me avoid the issue whether or not they're real or not. So the brakes that we're using are Avid BB7s. Now, an Avid, I don't know what these are called, Elixir brake levers. BB7s, my friend. You know, I had XT before with the Ice Tech rotors, and they were cool and stuff, but you know, I had nothing but problems with the levers leaking, and I spent a lot of time at the bike shops before trying to get that fixed, and they were expensive. And being out here in La La Land, you know, in my experience, the hydraulic brakes were a headache I couldn't afford. So I definitely wanted to go with the much simpler Avid BB7s again, and with the 200 160s in the back. You know, maybe 203 might go one day, but going downhill, loaded down bridges, pulling my children's trailer, you know, at first it was a lot of bite. I never had a 200mm rotor on the front, but and actually I didn't know a little bit sometimes, but it's awesome. I would even go with the 203 when I get a chance. I don't know, there'd be a big difference between 3mm. But rain or dry, and being able to adjust the brakes just by turning the red knob on the brakes to adjust them makes these BB7s so low maintenance and so dependable. For my use and my hard use of commuting, and I've had to lock up my brakes plenty. You know, even at 6,500 kilometers, I haven't changed the pads yet. I'm looking to change the pads, but who knows how long they'll go. They might even go longer than when I'm using them. I just clicked to adjust them, and fully recommended. The levers are robust, sturdy. You know, you got to pull hard, or you got to pull a little bit harder than you do on the hydraulic brakes, that's for sure. It's not so luxurious one-finger braking, but it's kind of like the manual controls on the space capsule or whatever. It's nice to have analog controls. It works quite well. Now, we're getting in here into one of my favorite areas here in the countryside. I'm gonna stop and maybe do make a video for the wheel or something. Now, what do we have for the drivetrain? I have a Deore trekking crankset, 175, and it 48 teeth, big tooth, and whatever the middle and the lower ring is. I'm sorry I can't even give you the exact count. I hardly use the smallest ring on this bike. I do use it sometimes, but not very often. And you know, on the flat roads, to get up to speed, I often use the 48 tooth gear. I wouldn't even mind having a bigger gear than that. But in having that large gear, you need to have a special trekking front derailleur and rear derailleur. And I had the LX or something front derailleur, but what I bought from CRC, you know, there's a maximum in your tooth count that you could have with your front and rear derailleurs with the amount of teeth you have, and I exceeded that maximum, and they still sold me the LX or whatever derailleur, and I couldn't even get the front derailleur to work on here. So I rode just single speed front with the rear shifting gears for a while. It was really hard for me to get a front derailleur. Finally I was able to get one, the front derailleur, and then I had to switch the rear derailleur. I had to go back to Hong Kong on a special trip to get an XT, and even an older style XT rear derailleur that would work. And I think I'm still a little bit out of the maximum suggested tooth range, but it works quite well. Pain in the ass. I don't know why Shimano wants to keep their mountain bike components away from big you know, big front or big gears like 48 tooth gears. I don't know why. I'd like to see more support for trekking components. I mean, with the 29-inch wheel, I don't spin at a high cadence, so I really like that. I really like, I'm a power guy, whatever you want to call it. I wish that there'd be more support for that from Shimano. It seems like they're going the opposite way, but it was real hard. I had to go on a special trip to Hong Kong to get a rear derailleur, and very tough. And I was using the Shimano chain, and the Shimano chain I had was a LX chain or whatever, and I actually, fuck off. I actually had to change this chain to a KMC chain about 2,000 kilometers ago. So about 3,500 kilometers, I guess, maybe 3,000 kilometers ago. I had to change it, got stretched out, and honestly I couldn't find the Shimano chain like I had before here in China. And I forget the model, a KMC chain I went with, but it's working quite well. And I do have to, you see all the trash out here? It's actually cleaning a lot of places. I do actually have to get my driveline cleaned up, like have the rear cassette pulled and cleaned up. I don't got time to do it myself. I've done it like at 3,000 kilometers. Once it lasts, you got to clean it up, and I have a hard time just getting to the local bike shop, getting time to get it clean. So, starting to think about, might be advantage to having a internal hub like a roll hop if you had the money. If I had the money, I like to have a roll hop for the low maintenance of it. I don't know how it would hurt my speed, but it sure would be nice to have a lower maintenance reliability. But these are doing great. It's 7,000 kilometers, 6,000 kilometers. The gears are running fine. I'm using the Deore shifters, and honestly, you know, I would like to have the XT shifters, but I don't have a problem with these Deore shifters at all. They're spot on. And if you're looking to save money for other components, you can't fault these Deore shifters. I shift quite often. They seem to be pretty accurate. Maybe those XTs, you know, I have XTs in the past, and they did seem really nice and accurate too. Maybe they'd be a little bit more snappier, but you might not even be able to tell the difference in the blindfolded test between the LX and the XTs. The rear XT derailleur is awesome. The trekking derailleur are hard to find. See this road that I'm right now, this is where you get flats real easy if you don't have good tires. Side street here, construction going on. And I wouldn't want to have a flat here. I want to have a flat nowhere. So, let me see here. I'm gonna stop up here and give it a little bit more in-depth review, or make a short section. I don't have a lot of time to stop it. We're in a pretty Chinese area up here. Let's see if we find a nice scenic place to stop and do an in-depth review of something. An in-depth review or an introduction. We gotta do some stuff here. What else can I tell you about? We got on the stem, I'm using like 110 degree Thompson stem. I think 110 or 106, I can't remember the exact length. But it's much more than the 60 degree recommended by Jones. Now I like a laid out cockpit. Now the only problem is I had a dislocated shoulder once, and I used to like my handlebars down lower in a more aggressive position. And with my stem here, I did put them down lower, but I didn't cut my fork tube that much. So I got a lot of spacers on here, allow me some adjustments. But when I had it down lower, the middle of my top of my back would just be my neck would be in pain after like 80-kilometer rides and 70-kilometer rides, really painful. So I tried to make some adjustments. You know, I have a Thompson laid back seat, and I have that maximum back, and so I actually raised my stem a little bit, put some spacers in there, and that did solve the back pain problem that I had. And maybe we'll do a review here. This looks like some kind of temple, maybe. Oh, I don't know. Maybe not do it here. Maybe we go sit down and have a beer real quick. Have a beer and do a review. But these, you know, would I try the 60 millimeter? Yeah, I would try it. Maybe I could put the handlebars back down lower. But I really like the length of this. And I did get the Thompson laid back seat post, because I do like being able to put my Brooks saddle back farther and give me a much more laid out position, which I think is more comfortable for commuting. I really don't like the giant frame size and the Trek size with the short top tubes. I really don't like that at all. So I'm running the Thompson stem on the front here, and you really got to crank it down tight. But it's a great stem. Can't go wrong with it. I'm using the FSA headset. I don't know about the servicing of the FSA. I guess as a servicing recommendation, it looks like I'm missing any place to stop for beer to do a review, huh? I wanted to stop. Let's see what we pass up here. I think all the beer stops are out of the way now. Damn it. Thought I'd stop it with the beer and do an intro for the front of the channel. I don't get that much time often. But the stem works great, and using a something called FSA headset. Now, sure, if I had the money, I'd get a nicer one, but this was like a 400 yen headset. I haven't serviced it yet at 6,000 kilometers. I guess I probably need to repack it or do some bearings. We're gonna make our way in here. And works quite well though. I'm using Shimano SP542, I think, pedals, clipless pedals. And these clipless pedals are the same kind of pedals. I think they're the 542s. I'm sorry if I got the model wrong. I would recommend them again and again and again. They're awesome. Sure, when I was in Hong Kong, I saw like a limited edition blue XT clipless pedals that was kind of bling and kind of looked pretty cool. But I heard that those XT pedals have problems with the spindles after a year. And I've rode on these 540s or 542, whatever they are. I've rode these for like more than 10, 15, 20,000 kilometers and never had an issue with them. Completely awesome. My choice in clipless pedals, completely. I'm using a B52 Brooks saddle, and some people have a problem with them wearing in. As a matter of fact, they sell the Brooks Camdium saddle. It's kind of new. It's supposed to be more comfortable fit. But the problem is with the Camdium is if it doesn't fit you well to begin with, it's not going to fit you well later. And the Brooks shapes to your body, and the more you use it, the more it turns into a nice sofa. And really, you know, for me, from the first day of the Brooks, it was comfortable. I didn't have to break this in. I mean, honestly, to tell you the truth, from the very first day, it's always been a comfortable saddle for me. And with more use and more use, and I use it in heavy rainstorms too. I do have the seat cover that goes with it, but honestly, when you're sitting on the seat, you don't, not a lot of rain will get underneath your butt to the saddle. I do put it on though, when I know I'm gonna have to get off my bike in the rain. But it's a great saddle. I will show you I'll do an independent review of that component and show you what it looks like as it gets worn in. Sturdy, heavy. Some people say heavy. Now I got the non-riveted, I got the what's it called, the classic, or I got the non-special saddle, and that means the rivets are not hammered. I was concerned that those rivets would dig into my leg or something, but I don't feel them at all. It's not necessary to be concerned about that. I mean, the seat fit's awesome, and in combination with the laid back seat post, you can really slide it back on the rails real good. There is a tensioner bolt on the saddle, and I've never used it. Never used it before. Now, Now, I'm telling you, when you're, I have had other saddles, and when you're riding hundreds of kilometers a week, I've had bloody ass from having blisters and just nightmarish hell. And when I switch to a Brooks, I don't get saddle sore, I don't get pains, and I can even ride with shorts with no padding in them. And so it's much more than a bling factor for me. I know some people wear them, buy them just for bling, but from a real world use, they're awesome. You can't go wrong. You gotta be careful because they're hard, and if you fall off, and it will jab your ass or whatever. But it's a great seat, man. It's awesome. And as I mentioned, I have the Thompson laid back seat post, and I don't think I'd be comfortable on the bike without a laid back seat post. I'd really like to lay out, maybe like the Straggler would be laid out, like a maybe more road bike, but I don't like the top high bar in the road bike frame. So it gives you more of a laid out position a little bit while keeping the mountain bike geometry, which I really like, which I really prefer the Thompson's laid back seat post for. Now, I chose the non-quick release hub for the rear, and I don't have a lot of regret for that. One thing I should mention on the Shirley frame, I wish that they'd have more accurate markings on the horizontal drop out of the rear to make sure axle's straight. I'd wish for that because you could get a tensioner for the rear. Something called monkey nuts, or I forget the name of the other tensioner. There's two types of Shirley horizontal drop out tensioners to actually slide your rear wheel back. But the problem is you want to have a really even, you kind of got to eye it. It'd be much better if there's like some kind of accurate markings on the horizontal drop out to make sure your axle's straight when you're tying it down. Now, for my rear frame, I am using Topeak Tourist DX frame, and I'm sorry, for the rear rack. Now, I bought this Tourist rack because I had a Tourist DX, I had a MT Topeak bag that slides on really cool. But the problem is I haven't used that for a couple years, and I really liked it on my other bike. I thought, well, I still got the bag, I'll buy the frame so I can still use the bag. But after I got the bag out of storage, I could see like the zippers hardened up on it, and the bag became brittle, and it just didn't age very well. So I got the bag, which is almost useless, but I'm using the rack. The rack holds my Ortleib bags quite well. You can see one of the Ortleib reviews up. It seems like it's got a little bit of flex in it. Now, I've never had another rack, but I'm gonna do an review. I know that it's lighter than the Shirley rack, but I think I might like a more sturdy rack if the flex, because I'll show you the flex, if the flex is actually from the rack or what. Because I think I know it's sturdy, and I've used them for like way more than 30,000 kilometers, and they never broke on me. and they hold my bags quite well, but I'm thinking that they're flexing a little bit, and that's taking a lot of energy out of me maybe, as you're got flex in the back. It's hard to explain. I'll have to show you the video when I put the bags on there and shake the bike. It just seems like it's real flexy a little bit. As for bags, I've got these Ortleib Bikepacker Plus waterproof bags, and I've had Deore bags, Deore bags. They were great, but they weren't waterproof, and every time it was raining I'd have to put all my stuff in a bag inside the Deore bags, which was not good. And it rains a lot here in southern China, like monsoons. These Ortleib bags, very strong material. I haven't had a hole in them at all. They seem very durable. They're completely awesome for rain. I know they cost a little bit more money, but if you value your commute and you got gear to carry, the external pocket cover is a little bit awkward at first, but it's fully recommended. I wouldn't recommend the one without the external pockets, just because more space the better. But I carry all my gear in there: laptops, clothes, electronics, screens. They're plentiful, and I want to be able to carry it in a bike packing saddlebag setup. So absolutely recommend those bags. And for bar tape, I got some cheap Rydia bar tape on my Jones loop bars. It's supposed to be gel, and I'm not a bar tape expert. Wrapping up is like wrapping up electrical tape. Works well for me, man. I don't know how you could go wrong. I had to use a couple packs. I got some nice white electrical tape to wrap around here on the loose ends. Works quite well. I occasionally do have my right arm hand fall asleep, but that's just my weirdness on my body. So I'm gonna shake my hand a little bit, but very comfortable having different positions with bar tape on here. Now, as for the lighting on here, I'm using the Lezyne Decadrive. 800 lumens, I don't know, what is it, 800 I think. On high output overdrive, it's got like 1,000 lumens. I was worried about the lumen count at first, but most of my time I leave it on all the time. I charge it. I ride about 3 hours a day, and the charge lasts me, but it's got 3 LEDs in it, and 2 of the LEDs can stay on, and 1 of the LEDs will blink. And whenever I put it on my son's bike or something, it is a bright, noticeable light, and it's awesome. You have no fear of the elements of water getting inside. I'm sure you could drop it in a bathtub and be fine. Absolutely, it would be okay. And it's strong and rigid, and mine, I'm going to show you a picture later on. I'll show you a video of it. I'm going to do an independent review of it. But the bad thing about it is the mount. You got to really push it on that mount good, and be careful that you lock it on there good. My wife has put it on for me a couple times, and I put it on a couple times, and it started my journey out, and it has fallen out onto the street in the middle of traffic, been ran over by, hit by cars, and the body's beat up on it, but it still works like a champ. It's got 2 charging modes. If you hook it up to a high-speed charger, the light will blink blue and it'll charge twice as fast as it is when it's blinking green. I charge it at night when I go to bed, and it's always there for me. And it's got a replaceable battery. You could get an extra battery for it. What sucks is they don't have an extra charger, so you have to charge them both in one battery or in one unit. It's preferable to me than like Magic Shine type lights. I have had lights with external battery packs, and every single time I have shorts in the cable, I have problems with the batteries, I have problems with the connections. Because there's no external connections and it's all self-contained, it's much more durable. Now, right after I bought this version, it went on sale like much cheaper at CRC, and the new version of the Decadrive has a non-removable battery. And if you look very carefully, you'll see that the flashing lumens are much lower, like 80 watt or something compared to 150 for this model. I would recommend you find the older model Decadrive versus the newer model. And I think that for the Commuter, the Decadrive is a better light than the Power Drive. In my opinion, when you look at the beam comparison, it's got a much closer widespread beam when you're not flashing. I'm always flashing though. But when you need to turn it on, I like the beam pattern and the beam spread much better than the Power Shot Lezyne drive. But it's very good quality. I place the quality of the light above the quality of their pumps. I have a Lezyne, or Lezyne, whatever you say their name, rear light on my helmet, and it's a rear blinking red light that charges USB 2, and it is super bright. 3 LEDs, automatic on, automatic off. I always keep it in the flashing, and it's awesome helmet mounted light. Because of the seat post I have being a laid back, I think it's just better to mount the light on your helmet than the seat post. And I have the Commuter. The Commuter, if you look on CRC, there's a Commuter light. It's like a rear light that goes on your back, like a strap. It's got a shoulder straps to go around the top of your shoulders, around your waist. It's an LED strip, blinks, and it's got a separate blinking huge circle unit, and it's a super awesome rear light. I'd recommend it. Commuter Pro, Oxford Commuter Pro is what it's called. Charge it up on USB. It doesn't hold the charge quite as long as the other lights, but it'll last you for 3 hours at least if you charge it well. And I do the circle light in daytime and the straps in nighttime and the circle, and I always run my brake light in the daytime. Better safe than sorry. Fully recommended the Lezyne system though. As for my cycle gear, my electronics and stuff, I'm using a Fenix 3 watch, and I could put a really lengthy review on that because there's so much to that watch. It's an awesome watch. I did not have the newer version with the built-in heart rate monitor. I have the external run monitor, and it works quite well. It works really quite well. I've got the cadence and the speed sensor with my Fenix 3. I have the heart rate monitor, and they mount up really easy. The watch display is absolutely big enough. The light comes on. It's got lap speeds where every 5 minutes the light comes on, or it will tell you your speed and your cadence, and it'll tell you that, you know, I really need to do a review of the software that runs on Android. Connected to a Bluetooth speaker, it will come on and it'll give you announcements over your Bluetooth speaker. It's such a complex watch, and I'm almost home. I'm going to be home in about 4 or 5 minutes, so I'm going to do the Fenix 3 review later on in detail. And you know, I use the watch for swimming. It's awesome too. And it actually, I got it to replace my Garmin swim watch because I quit cycling for a little while. And I bought the watch before I even planned on getting back into cycling, which I got back into it last October. But I am so happy with the functions of this watch. As a smartwatch, it's awesome. Getting announcements. As a cycling watch, I can't think of a better watch. Hands down beat the Garmin external GPS mounted one for so many reasons I'll go into later on. The cam that I'm using also needs to have a heavy review. Is the Verb XE cam. And I'll go into a good review of this Verb. I mean, you also need to touch on the software and the editing process, which I'll get into. I got a nice little iron brass bell. Can't go anywhere without a bell. My Bluetooth speaker I'm using is a Philips shock box. And you know, Philips shock box has motion controls that are not that accurately, don't work that great. You're controlling playback and pause functions. It is super awesome to keep the elements out, except for the 3.5 millimeter plug. I lost the cap on that, but I don't get any water in there. But I've been in heavy rainstorms, and it works good, holds a charge. It's not the loud. I haven't heard other speakers to compare it to, but if you crank up the equalizer on your Bluetooth, you can hear it. You've heard it in my recordings before. It fits in my handlebars quite well. I'd check out the JBLs, but they were more expensive than the Philips shock box. And the Philips shock box has a more rugged look. I have dropped it a couple times. As a result of dropping it, I've had the volume control come out, and that's perhaps back on there. Charging is a little longer. I'll go to a more in-depth review. But I'm almost home now, and I think I'll let my children watch them wax the bike for the first time ever. And I look forward to getting some more component reviews out there and sharing my experiences with the people out there. If you have the time to listen to this channel, you must maybe be bored. I would suggest going to keepfit.com and maybe downloading the video. If you have a long commute and you don't mind having the company of me talking and rambling on, you could download the video on KeepVid, put it on your smartphone, and you can play it on your commute if you want to hear somebody else talk. I know commutes can get long and lonely, and sometimes it's good to be alone. And I know that a lot of you have probably tried talk radio, and I'm sure that you've tried different talk shows and Democracy Now! Amy Goodman, and maybe you could add Deep Thought Cycle Blog to your list of shows to help you pass that long commute. Because maybe you've listened to the same songs over and over, and you don't have time to update your music list. I know I don't. But anyways, you know, I've seen we've got a whopping 15 subscribers, almost a couple thousand views. Pretty cool. And I'll try to keep getting the videos up there and getting the reviews out there and sharing the ride. Did you feel that we were in China on this ride? Did you have a good look? I guess if you're if you're commuting and watching this, don't get a chance to look at the video that much. And another suggested use is if you happen to be sitting by your computer working on something that doesn't require complete attention, you know, it's not that bad to put in a little window maybe. But this is Robert Eaton with Deep Thought Cycle Blogs, and I'll continue the component reviews later on. And thanks for riding with me. Oh, new bed was delivered. All right.